Hello and welcome to BCU's Alumni podcast. I'm Bethan from BCU's Alumni team, and in each episode we welcome a different member from our alumni community back onto campus to chat all about what they've been up to since graduating from BCU. Today we're joined by Morgan Grice, an illustration graduate who has gone on to set up her very own business, Odd Orange. It's a handmade stationery business specialising in colourful, functional and sustainable stationery. She launched it in early 2022, just under 2 years after she completed her course here at BCU. So in this episode, we're keen to find out what really goes into starting up a business as a recent graduate and what it's like to take control of your own career. Morgan, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast today. So what is it like to be back on campus? Like, when were you last here? Are you feeling nostalgic?
Thank you so much for having me. It is nostalgic being back here. I worked here for 2 years after I graduated, so it hasn't been so long a time since I've been here, but it still feels really nice to walk down the walkway to Parkside and seeing everyone. It's so lovely.
So let's rewind then. So obviously you started working freelance whilst you're actually studying here at BCU then. So at what point did you think, I want to go from freelance to actually setting up your own business?
I think because I was doing freelance work while studying, and I was treating my studies like freelance work as well. I had a schedule, I was self-employed. I realised how much I loved it and how I didn't really like working for someone else. And I was going to go down the freelance route, but then because of circumstances, I tried out selling products, and it just made more money quicker and it was more enjoyable for me. So that's why I decided to start a business rather than being freelance or work for somebody else.
So obviously you studied illustration here at BCU then. So at what point did you get passionate about stationery then? And can you also tell me about the sort of products that you actually create and sell? Because do you actually you make everything yourself, don't you? You design and make them.
Yeah. So I always loved stationery and sketchbooks, and as an illustrator and an artist pretty much my whole life, I've always been obsessed with sketchbooks in particular. And I used to buy loads, but I can never find the right one. I'm really particular about it. And a lot of illustrators and artists will experience this as well. It's about the paper, the size, the format of the book, and the look of it as well, because so many sketchbooks out there are quite boring to look at. So I always loved sketchbooks, but I couldn't find the right one, so I decided to teach myself bookbinding to make my own sketchbooks. And it kind of spiraled. I had a following on the internet from my illustration, and I decided to show the sketchbooks I was making that incorporated my illustrations, and they ended up being really popular, and it kind of sparked the business. So I started off just selling sketchbooks that were hardback, covered in cloth, very, very colourful, and they had my illustrations inside as end papers. To inspire creativity and things, and then it's branched off into things like notebooks, other stationery items like notepads, stickers, greetings cards, art prints, and I also do workshops, online workshops for other artists, drawing sessions and things, and those have picked up a lot in the last year as well.
Okay, so how did you teach yourself how to bind then? Did you watch YouTube tutorials and stuff?
Yeah, I started off on YouTube. There is a YouTuber called C Lemon, and she films bookbinding tutorials, and that's literally where I started. And then I started reading books and finding other videos and teaching myself. A lot of it is trial and error. There's thousands and thousands of little things that can go wrong when making a book, and it took me 5 years to make a book where I didn't make a mistake. And it's all just coming across these surprising mistakes and things that can come up, and finding a solution yourself and then remembering it next time. And
Okay, so it was actually late 2020 then when you decided to set up Odd Orange, but you didn't actually launch the business until just over a year later. So can you kind of talk me through what happened during that year and what actually got you ready to actually launch it?
Yeah, so I took about a year to plan and prepare, mostly because obviously I've been doing freelance work and I'd been selling a few things on Etsy, but I knew that I wanted Odd Orange to be bigger. I knew I wanted to employ people eventually and have a bigger business, so I wanted to really do my research and get the foundations in place before I launched it, so I wouldn't have to learn the tough things on the way, the tough lessons. So I spent that year mostly researching, setting up. There's loads of little things that goes in setting up a business, like obviously registering as a limited company, getting a trademark, setting up a business bank account, things like that. That takes time. And also saving money. So I was working 3 jobs. It took me a year to save. I saved up all the money myself. I didn't take out any loans. It was entirely my savings. That's how I wanted it to be. I didn't want to owe anyone anything. So it was a whole year of being really frugal and saving up as much as I could to really start the business off on good footing.
Okay, so what were the jobs that you were doing then whilst you were kind of setting up the business?
Yeah, so I had a part-time minimum wage job in a warehouse where I was just like literally printing logos onto t-shirts, which was actually a really good experience in that hands-on creative-ish kind of job. Also learning about management, how I didn't want to manage a business. I also worked at BCU on the illustration course part-time. I did workshops there for the students, which was, again, great experience for the stuff I'm doing now with the workshops I do. And then I was doing freelance illustration as well, keeping that going. Look, I got some quite well-paying jobs in that year, so that was a really good addition to my savings as well. So.
Okay, well, we have actually got a couple of your notepads here with us. How cool are these? I just love them, and like the colours are just so nice, and it must be so weird when you see someone else holding what you made. Yeah,
it's even weirder when I see them filled up with people's artwork that's not mine. But really, really rewarding. Just seeing other people use them, and I get so many messages from people saying like how much they love the sketchbooks and notebooks, how much it's helped them, how they won't use anything else, and it's such a rewarding experience. I think.
Okay, so you're now 18 months in to the business. So what are some of the kind of biggest lessons that you've picked up along the way so far then?
I think the absolute biggest lesson I've picked up is to take care of your mental health. Don't overdo it. I'm the kind of person that overdoes it. If I've got like 24 hours I have 24 hours a day, I'm trying to use up every possible second in my business. That's how the whole year when I was setting up, when I wasn't working my jobs, I was full on working my business, and I don't know how I did it for a whole year. I was really intensely working. The end of last year, it all came to big like halt, and basically like my mental health just like plummeted. And it was at a really important time. It was over Christmas where I was supposed to be getting like my most sales. I could barely get myself to work. I was in bed. I had absolutely no motivation. I was miserable. It was really bad, like the worst mental health experience I've ever had in my life. And I'm still recovering 6 months on. And like I'm really struggling to get back to the productivity that I had before. So what I'm doing now is I'm really making an effort to work like regular hours, 9 to 5, have those weekends off, those evenings off, because really like working a weekend, if you're really busy, that's fine, but if you're working every weekend, it's not worth taking 6 months off because you can't get out of bed because you're exhausted. So, yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine that kind of pressure because it's your business. So if there's nobody making the products, you're not selling them.
Exactly. Like I never thought once that the biggest risk to my business was me. You feel worse because you already feel like bad because of mental health, but then you're sitting there stewing, thinking I should be doing this, I could be making this money, I could be doing this, and you can't, and it makes it worse and worse. So definitely take those breaks, don't overdo it. All you're doing is harming yourself basically.
So Odd Orange has almost 12,000 followers on Instagram. A growing following on TikTok as well. So do you think social media has been the key to growing your business, and kind of what other methods have you found work for you?
Wholeheartedly. For me, especially, social media, if it didn't exist, I wouldn't have a business. Almost all of my customers have found me through social media, through Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I wouldn't be able to have a business if it wasn't for social media. Generally find me through that. Luckily, because my customers, the sector I'm in, it's very visual, it's very Instagrammy anyway, so it works out really well because my customers, they buy my products, they share them, every time they fill a sketchbook page in and they share it, I get promoted. I have some really, really loyal customers that will I've done YouTube videos in the past that have blown up, and that's brought me loads of customers. And it's like a cycle. I'd say the second best thing for me was newsletter subscribers. So a lot of them came through my social media and through people sharing my stuff and talking about my business. But newsletter subscribers is the best form, I think, because I'm not fighting an algorithm. My news, my posts, they go directly into their inbox. I get a lot more interactions. I think if you can translate your following into newsletter subscribers, that's the absolute best thing you can do for business.
So in your newsletter, do you kind of, tell your readers more about yourself as well? Because I'm thinking, is that kind of part of the business as well, is actually it's you as well that people like?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a touch point. So I do at least 3 newsletters a month. I do one at the beginning of the month. I focus on only providing valuable content, nothing to I don't really do marketing promotion stuff. It's always to give to my subscribers. So I do a newsletter at the beginning of every month called my monthly dose of inspiration newsletter, and I'll have art challenges in there. I write blog posts. I pay people to write blog posts for me as well, so I don't have to focus on that. I'll share that to the newsletter. People love reading my blog posts. I'll share the drawing sessions, what's coming up. I do free drawing sessions for my newsletter subscribers, so that keeps them subscribed. And then I'll also do news and when the next restock is, so it kind of intertwines in there. And I do, like I said, free drawing sessions, so they get those emails with the tickets to the drawing session, and those are really popular and people love them. So.
Okay, so what are your best-selling products then?
It's always been the hardback sketchbooks, always, and then followed by the paperback sketchbooks. But my drawing sessions and drawing session recordings are really picking up and getting really popular as well. So it's nice to have 2 different revenue streams, because the hardback sketchbooks in particular are very, very time intensive. It takes me 2 months to make 100 to 200, but the workshops, once I've recorded it, don't have to do anything at all. They're just unlimited. People buy them. I don't have to do anything, so it's nice to have both. Okay,
so for those listening then who have always wanted to set up their own business, what is it that they need to do first?
Research, intensely research. Definitely, you need to know, first of all, how to set up business, what you need to do legally to successfully run a business. You need to know your customers. Luckily, my customers are very similar to myself, so I know them through and through. You need to know exactly who you're promoting your products to or service to, and you need to know, obviously, what product or service you're going to be selling, and how you're going to sell it if you're going to do it. Through social media, through your website, Etsy, markets, a physical shop, something like that. You need to have all those bases down, sorted before you start.
Okay, so this is something we love to do in every episode, a quick Birmingham fire round. Is it Shropshire where you live?
Yeah.
So how often do you actually come back to Birmingham?
Not very often. A few times every few months. I don't know, not very often, sometimes more often.
Okay, so yeah. So as you said, obviously it's been, not too long since you were last on the BCU campus then. So where is your favourite spot on campus? Was it anywhere where you kind of escaped to when you were a student here?
My favourite spot has to be the illustration studio. I loved illustration studio. That's why I went to the universities. I saw the studio and I was like, yes, it's amazing. It's big, it's light, there's really comfy seats. I know it's not everyone can get into it, but it's really lovely place to be. It's really inspiring, and yeah, it's my favourite place.
Okay, were you a snobs or a pop world kind of person?
Snobs.
Good answer. Blues or Villa?
I'm not a huge football person, but my cousin supports Villa, so I'm going to say Villa, so he doesn't hate me.
Would you rather go to Broad Street or Digbeth?
Digbeth.
And what is your favourite Brummie landmark?
Probably the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery.
Oh, I love the Museum and Art Gallery.
So good.
And the ceilings.
Yes. As an artist, it has to be my answer. I love it. I love museums. It's just a wealth of inspiration. Amazing.
And what is your favourite Brummie slang word?
I like when I get called Bab. It's really nice. Makes me feel special.
Yeah, it's weirdly comforting, isn't it?
Yeah, almost motherly in a way. I don't know. I like it.
So you have been selected as one of our local heroes at this year's Alumni Festival. So what does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I don't feel like I'm at the point in my life and career to be called a local hero. But to me, a hero is somebody that goes out of their way to help someone and inspire them in their life. And that's what I strive to do all the time with my business and my personal life. And yeah, I'd love to be considered a hero at some point. But yeah, I think it's very important to have heroes like that in your journey.
And final question then, if you could go back to your very first day here at BCU, what year was that?
Was it 2017, 2018? I can't remember. I graduated in 2020.
Okay, so 2017 then.
Okay.
Okay, so when was that? About 6 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So if you could go back to that kind of very first day, what is the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Take up every possible opportunity that you can. I figured this out about my second and third year, but I missed out on a lot. It's the 3 years at your university. It's really short. It goes by so quickly, and I think it's really important to take up every opportunity, go to every talk, every workshop, even if you don't think it doesn't quite match what you want to do when you graduate. That could always change. That happened for me. I went to talks I thought weren't that important, and when I graduated, it turns out they were very important with what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
And just whilst you're here and whilst you're paying for it, do everything, every resource, because once you're gone, once you leave, it will be really difficult to get those kinds of things again. So yeah, make the most of it.
So thank you so much for popping by today, Morgan, and coming onto the podcast. We can't wait to see you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.